Welcome to the Filmed Live Musicals podcast, a podcast about stage musicals that have been legally filmed and publicly distributed. The Filmed Live Musicals website contains information on nearly 200 musicals that have been captured live. Check it out at filmedlivemusicals.com. And now, on with the show. Welcome to episode 46 of the Filmed Live Musicals podcast. I'm your host, Luisa Lyons, and my guests today are Christian Chu and Bianca Lau, the assistant director and production manager on Ateneo Blue Repertory's virtual production of First Date. Welcome, Chu and Bianca.
Hello.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
All the way from Manila in the Philippines.
Yes.
Very excited to have you on the show. So to start us off with, what made you fall in love with musical theater?
Specifically for me, I guess, I could attribute it to watching the film version of Phantom of the Opera, the one with Emmy Rossum, because as a kid, it was the film that I would watch with my cousins a lot. So it used to be on YouTube, like this like 240p quality version of it on YouTube, where we would just play it and play it and play it all over again. And like to the point that I developed like a serious crush on Emmy Rossum as a kid. So that's when I started to like really get into musicals, and like eventually it just evolved from there, going from Phantom of the Opera to other musicals here and there.
And Bianca?
I guess in my case, my dad and I would always listen to a bunch of musicals like on music, like on Apple Music. I don't know what it was called before, but that platform, we would go through a bunch of like different albums and stuff. And we came across the Wicked Broadway album. And I remember just falling in love with the music and then falling in love with how they told the story, as in just like you could feel what the actors were doing within the songs, and that was just so beautiful in itself. And I eventually got to watch it in Singapore, like the actual show, and that really sparked my love for musical theater. It was something that I personally wanted to try out, and ayun, and I guess yeah, my journey started from there. So yeah.
And did both of you study musical theater at school?
Actually, no. My high school didn't even have like a theater troupe. Like I was legitimately like just trying to consume as much content as I could through like watching musicals if I could in Peta Theater here in Manila, and like through Tumblr and like all that stuff, like just trying to get all of that content in me, because there was literally there was like little to no people that shared my interest back when I was in high school, because it was like pretty niche here.
I've had Peta Theatre on the podcast before last year when they did their production. I'm blanking on the name. It was so cool. It had a set filled with water. Rock of Ages.
Oh yeah,
It was a jukebox musical based
Yeah.
on the music of Rock of Ages. It was fantastic.
it's so good, that musical. And I guess on my end, I'm currently taking up a minor in theater arts in Ateneo under the performing track. So I've been doing that since my sophomore year. And in high school, there were really no classes for musical theater. There was a class, but then it got canceled because I was the only student that signed up for it. So they were like, we're not going to do that. So yeah, I think I relate to Chewin a bit, where he said that it's very niche, especially here. So yeah.
Would you consider musical theater very popular in the Philippines?
I guess to like a select few, like it's definitely like what we call niche talaga. Like you don't necessarily hear about musical theater unless you kind of like really search for it. Like even Pita Theater, which is like one of the biggest sources, isn't you don't really get to hear about it like as often as you would hear like about like other mediums, like mediums of like other media, like film and TV shows. Like you barely hear anything about musical theater. Like it really you have to actively search for it or actively look for a group that's interested in it.
How did you both become involved in Ateneo?
This organization, Blue Rep, was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Ateneo. I had heard about Blue Rep in high school, because in high school I was in my theater org and I was also in Ateneo for high school. So hearing about Blue Rep and hearing about, you know, there's this organization that really like professionally stages musicals, and it's done by students. And I thought that idea in itself was so fantastic that I wanted to join, and I really made it one of my goals. So I auditioned and I entered originally as a cast member. So what about you, Chu?
Okay, for me, I've always dreamt about going to Ateneo as a kid. Not even necessarily because of Blue Rep, just because I was going to like basketball games and stuff. So the school spirit was in me, like back in high school pala.
Same.
Like back in high school. So when I entered Ateneo, oh, actually, the summer before I entered Ateneo, I went to my cousin's prod in Blue Rep, which was back then Carrie the Musical, which was the newbie production for that year in 2018. And I was so amazed by the production of the university because truth be told, I haven't been able to access a lot of like stage musicals just because it's pretty hard to get by, and the transportation here in in Manila specifically is like pretty hard if you don't have your own personal car. So when I watched Carrie, which was staged by Blue Rep, I was like, oh, I really want to get in here. Like, I'm begging God, like, let me pass this university so I could join this organization. So yeah, eventually, that's why in my freshman year, I immediately like ran straight to a beeline to the sign up booth for Blue Rat.
I love that for both of you that the theater company was a big part of the reason you chose this university. I think that's really special. I'm curious what you're both majoring in.
I'm a communication major.
I'm a junior right now in BS Psychology.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's so cool. Both very useful degrees for theater. So, can you tell me, do you know the history of Blue Rep and how it got started and when it got started?
I forgot the actual year we started, but we're currently on our 30th year as an organization. And I guess just like how any other theater organization starts, it's just a bunch of people that like musicals and wanted to stage them and gathered more people to do so. And we've staged, I think I'd like to think that Blue Rep has really proven itself as the premier musical theater organization of Ateneo. You know, we've gotten awards and for our productions, and I'm also part of the company core, which is the executive board of Blue Rep. And I'd like to say that I'm very proud of where our organization is now, especially since we're still sort of like navigating ourselves through the online setting, what online theater is, what more can we do with theater as a medium. Does it always have to be live, or in the case of First Date, is it filmed? So yes, that's what I would say.
Some of my favorite questions right there. So, what was the process behind choosing First Date and deciding to film it or do a virtual production?
I'm also the artistic director of Blue Rep. So the reason why we chose First Date, or the reason why I presented it to the company core at first, was because um, uh, I wanted Blue Rep's 30th year to end on sort of like a lighter, more fun note, because our past finales have been very sad, um, very sad, deep, dark, serious finales, and and this online setting is also very like sad in itself, and we sort of wanted to, well, lack of a better, end with a bang. Like that's what we were saying. We wanted it to be
Like,
happy,
like
and
liven up the mood.
yeah, to lighten up the mood, because it was just really sad. Like our past finales, if you look at them, they're really, really sad. Um, and I don't know, when you look at First Date, it's a rom com. It caters to a lot of audiences. It's
Mhm.
it's funny. The music is great. It's short too. So, and um, this was the first, I guess, this was the first production that we did that was hybrid, in where we filmed both online and on site. So, yeah. So yeah.
And so, can you talk me through the process of filming? Like it's an amazing feat putting all these different people in different spaces and occasionally in the same space together. Can you talk us through that process?
Okay, I feel like I can talk about the process. Okay, so since First Date was filmed in a hybrid manner, so on site and online. In online, we were actually just in a Zoom room. So we were all in a Zoom room. Rehearsals would take place just on call, like doing the read throughs and like practicing more. We were more focused on like delivery, just because you can't really block you can't really block as much online. So we were really focusing on character analysis and really getting the actors to kind of like get where their character is coming from, since the characters of First Date are pretty zany. They're not really true to life at times. They're a pretty eccentric bunch, so we kind of had to channel that energy. And then for filming proper, we would actually have a tech pack. So this tech pack would consist of like nearly everything. So we would have tripods, cameras, cell phones, a wireless mic, all the props and costumes, all delivered to their homes, so that the cast could set it up themselves. But we made sure that they had like assistance, just because imagine setting up like three sets of lights and the black backdrop and the green screen. Like, it's a very tedious process for one person. So overall, that's how we did it. So we had one camera. So the cast had two cameras. One camera focusing on the entire set, so just so that the people online could see and check everything out. Just make sure that the lighting is good, costumes are intact, the audio is getting picked up correctly. So, and then the other one would be the filming camera itself. So it's kind of like this process of just like checking as much as we can. So they would send it like throughout the entire process. They would be sending like audio recordings and test shots to make sure that the lights team can check it, to make sure that our production designer can check it, and our assistant production designers. So like setup could take like nearly 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and we're all students, so we just have to really crunch it up a bit. We just have to make sure that we can achieve everything on time. And then that's how filming would go. Like, we would just film everything, get it checked. If it's a good take, we keep it. If it's a bad take, we reshoot. And then after that, we just kind of like hope for the best. The equipment stays stable, that nobody gets their internet cut off, and all that stuff. Like,
No.
there were so many factors that we had to take into account, and we were all just like praying to the gods that nothing would happen that would impede the filming, since we were under such a tight schedule to make sure that we can show it to the world.
She was talking about what we did for the because we for first date we did a hybrid setup like I mentioned earlier. So there was the online setting and then there was the on-site setting wherein we were in person filming. So essentially, first date is a film. None of us really done live, except maybe what we did when we were on campus. So I guess for that, we didn't have so many. We didn't go through the test recordings and all of that because we had a crew with us there. So everyone who needed to see the clips were already on site, and the way we split this was that the ensemble cast was online, but the two leads, Casey and Aaron, were on site. Uh, so yeah, I guess that's how it worked. Our director was with us on site and would sometimes pop up online. Um, but yeah, it was essentially like how a film would go, where we really like did the claps and everything, like the take one, take two. So yeah, yeah.
Did anyone in the company have film experience, or were you all learning this for the first time?
We have done like the online filming back in our previous finale for the 29th season, and I was the production manager for that. So
Yeah.
a lot of the company actually had experience, except for those obviously who joined this year, because they were all newbies. But yeah, a lot of people had film experience, and they were people because people who join Blue Rep aren't necessarily just musical theater. They also dabble in like actual film and doing other forms of media like music production. So thankfully, we had that in the bag. But yeah, every time that we do an online prod, it's eventually like a relearning process, because you have to really grow from your previous experiences. Make sure that you remedy all those things that you failed to do in your past online frauds, and eventually there's gonna be new things that gets brought up in the new fraud, cause I keep on code switching because there's so much factors in place now, especially with first date where we had to do it hybrid. It was our first experience doing it hybrid, so we were just like relearning everything and just going with the flow.
You mentioned that you had filmed a previous production. What was that production and why did you film it?
For that, it was an original actually by Blue Rep alumna. So it was called Friction, and we actually got them to be part of our artistic team for that. So they were really able to refine their vision back when they first made it in around 2014, 2013, around that time period. So they were able to redefine it for our online version, and we did it. I'm not sure why we did it, but um, I feel like because the online setting was so experimental, it was a really good opportunity to really just jump right in and really get into the groove of just filming everything online.
And that was 2019?
Yeah, 2020, if I'm correct. I don't know,
20, that makes more
2021,
sense.
2021, 2021.
Aha.
21, yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious because I was like, oh, before the pandemic. That's very interesting. But it makes sense that it was during the pandemic. And when you were filming First Date, I know that there's been a lot of political upheaval in the Philippines in the past few weeks, let alone months. And then putting in the pandemic on top of that. And I know that there have been strict lockdowns and it's been a very tumultuous time in the Philippines. What were the challenges as you were filming and putting First Date together?
I think I could answer that because as production manager, and Chu would understand this, you're literally put at the forefront of your production. So anything that hits it, it hits the production managers first. Um, so I guess with the elections, we it was a huge shift in the environment for a lot of people, for everyone actually, and well, I guess a huge challenge for us was that the way that our show dates were plotted out, we plotted them out during the elections just because of our school calendar and all of that. So it was something that we couldn't avoid. And because of the turnout of the elections, which was something that admittedly we did not expect, um, it, it affected us a lot. And I guess our company, we needed to take a step back, sort of process what was happening in our country and in our own lives, and because of that, we had to postpone our show dates by a few weeks. Um, I guess, yeah, it was a challenge in itself, but it was something that I guess as production manager, you want to make sure that the people you're working with are okay first before anything else. So I guess me alongside my PM team, Isa and Robin, we all decided that that was what we had to do in that given moment. With regards to the pandemic, it was quite the journey, I guess, trying to get the first date to be filmed on site because obviously face to face classes are still very much new to Ateneo. And but the challenges that were with it were things that we were willing to go through anyway, like the health checks and the health protocols, filling out forms to get in, making sure everyone's vaccinated and all of that. These things are necessary because at the end of the day, your first priority is to take care of the people you're working with. So I guess those were our biggest challenges. It was very emotional, I guess. Emotion was like a huge thing for me personally as well because you wanted you as much as possible you want your production to move as smooth as possible, but with all of these things like being thrown at you, it's hard to find your footing. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Mm. It's so powerful that you you decided to take a step back and allow allow your company and yourselves to process what was happening. I think so many companies, especially in the US, just kind of barrel on through and like insist on like the show must go on kind of idea. But I think that's like, it really speaks to how much you care for each other and care for yourselves as a company, that you decided to take that step back. And I think that's something that I think more companies could take note of.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like because Blue Rep in itself is a student organization, we're not just, the co-workers. We're essentially like people that do hang out together like outside their free time. And I feel like that plays a really big role in how first date was headed by the PM team. Like they really did make sure that everyone was comfortable and um everyone was able to work at their best and not just trudge on, knowing the social political landscape was getting crazier and crazier by the day.
Yeah. What was the editing process behind putting the film together?
Editing process. Well, thanks to our amazing production teams, they were able to come up, and Chu and Chara, who is also our other assistant director, they were able to come up with the shot lists that sort of where wherein we could see what first date looked like on paper, and that was something that the DOP team, our director of photography team, followed. Our DOPs, Nate and Atom, had a very short time, like a relatively short time, to edit this monster of a production, because it's so like it's so big. Like there's like we have two settings, we have green screens and all of that. And from what I saw, because I was working with them firsthand, um, was that what they did was they edited it first per song, and then after that they edited the book scenes, and then they split the workload, Atom and Nate, who are DOPs. And then after that they stitched it together at the end, and then we had like an audio file by our sound designer, Sir RV, and he sort of just gave us an audio file to overlay, and then there. It sounds super simple the way I'm talking about it, but the month that we went through was like
The hour,
was quite the
the hours
journey.
of work that
Yeah,
that belies.
Yeah.
yeah. Especially when you counter in like the artistic team giving notes back and forth, and not to mention, like, just to commend also Atom and Nate, our DOPs. Nate is actually a graduating senior and Atom is a freshman. So they're both on very different ends of the student spectrum. So they're also like sort of figuring out, like Nate on his thesis and then Atom with his classes on site. So I'd like to commend the two of them for what they also went through. Because as PMs, we were also witnessing it firsthand, and it was quite crazy.
Yeah, not to like, putting aside the political and like world turmoil, you're going to school on top of it all and trying to study and finish your degrees. That's I remember balancing being in the theater society and classes and studying and rehearsal. It's not always an easy balance, but I think for me personally, the theater stuff was what got me through my university degree. It was what made my experience so wonderful, that I and the people that I met through the theater world at university are still my friends today, and are, the most special people in my life are the theater people. So it's so wonderful that you have this community. As artistic director, Bianca,
Yes.
will Blue Rep be filming shows in the future, either this hybrid model or in-person shows?
well, well, I guess I won't be artistic director next year. My term is ending soon. But I guess the goal is really to keep working towards bringing theater to where it rightfully belongs, which is the stage. And with what Ateneo has really like talked about, with us going fully back to like on-site classes, I'd like to think that Blue Rep can do it too, that we can eventually work towards the theater. It will be a while, I guess, until we can have like live audiences and all of that. So I'm guessing, but I'm guessing that we might film next year, but I'm also hoping we don't, because live theater is really what makes theater so special. And yeah, and Yeah, and I'll be a senior next year. I want to see theater. I want to graduate to the live show.
Yes.
How about audiences that are like outside of Manila and want to watch your work? Would you consider streaming those live shows so that people who aren't in person are able to enjoy your work?
Oh, yeah, of course. In our past shows, I've also noticed that a lot of the ticket buyers come from other countries because, yeah, some of our members have family from other countries as well. So yeah, of course, it's
Yeah.
something we can definitely look into, and we have like such an incredible streaming platform, Ticket to Me, and we've built sort of a good relationship with them. Yeah, true. You're gonna say something? Sorry.
No, but yeah, I also definitely noticed so many people were watching abroad, not just like family members, but also like Blue Rep alumna who are like paving the world in their own way outside of the Philippines. A lot of them actually are working like outside here now. So yeah, I feel like live streaming next year or in the future years will definitely be such a good not just a good avenue of sharing our work, but as well as really just giving everybody a shot to watch what the beloved org has been doing like years after they've graduated. Because at Blue Rep has a strong relationship with its alumni. Make a lot of the artistic teams that we've had are actually like previous alumni who have like developed their skills and are ready to like test their skills or like give back to Blue Rep by directing, by making movement, by production designing. So yeah, maybe live streaming could be a thing. Pro Shot Musical when, you know?
I am all for it. I'm curious about the funding for Blue Rep. Is it funded through the university? Is it by the string of the skin of your teeth?
This is like this is purely our voice, but Chu and I made like a face. Just like any other theater organization in the Philippines, we are struggling with our funds. I think that's the best way I can put it. I don't know. Uh, we do get money from the university, yeah. But we're also expected to earn on our own terms, like through ticket sales, through merch. I think Chu might have better input on this because I'm
Yeah.
really in the art side of it.
Yeah, so I guess for context, I've worked on several productions as the finance head, so as chief finance officer or one of the heads for front of house. So yeah, a lot of even though we're super lucky that Ateneo loves the arts. Thank you so much to the School of Humanities and Arete. But they can't really expect to fund these musicals, which can like reach prices that are like unimaginable sometimes. But yeah, we really try to make it work by through ticket sales, merch sales, especially since everybody likes a sticker set or a tote bag or a shirt. So yeah, I think that's primarily where our funding comes from. So we get our budget from our school, but yeah, most of the time we are just like marketing the show to the best of our abilities and making sure that everybody is enticed to watch, and if not just watch but to buy the merchandise that we also work on by our beloved design and publications team and graphic designers.
Your team just keeps growing and growing as we chat. I'm in awe. It's wonderful how many people that you have involved in the organization and in very interesting roles too. I love that you create merch. I want to see a sticker set. I want to purchase one. I do love me a sticker set. Do you have a sense, or I'm not sure if you're able to share, what the ticket sales for First Date were like, and like what streaming, if that brought in extra revenue, or at a time when you can't have in person theater?
Um, I guess I don't, the best way to word this out is we were first dates, show dates again. Like I mentioned earlier, we're just caught in a very unfortunate time for the Philippines. So, so I think if you piece the puzzle together, you put the pieces together, you'll be able to see sort of how we did. Um, I'm trying to sugarcoat it as well as I can. um, uh, I on the streaming platform itself, I can't really answer so much about that because as AD and as BM also, I don't think we get much money from them. It's really they are our medium for our audiences. They don't give us money or anything like that. The money is really like through our ticket sales. They let us know how much we earn through obviously because everything's being bought on that site, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, if you ask me about ticket sales, yeah, the shows were just at a very weird time for everyone. Um,
Yeah.
Mm.
but yeah, I mean, I would say that we aren't on my end personally, and I think for my co-PMs as well. It's not that isn't really something that we are focusing on. Like obviously we had a goal and everything, but as we've come to see how far the production has gone given our limitations and everything, we are proud of what it is and what it's done and what we've done as students in this hybrid setup, in this incredibly new unknown setup. So yeah.
That's it.
I I think that's really important, and it's, you know, funding is important and ticket sales are important. Like you said, they're a important part of revenue, but it shouldn't be our end goal. It shouldn't be the only thing that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were all able to come together and provide these opportunities for so many different people and create something fun and heartwarming and uh, test out new skills, I think is incredibly valuable. You can't put money on that kind of experience.
Yeah.
What would you say to other either student companies or theater companies who might be hesitant to stream their work?
Hmm. I
Shoot.
feel like I feel like a lot of the fears really stem from like obviously like the legal basis. Like, oh my god, what do we do if someone bootlegs our production and like illegally sends it out? Like we're gonna be in so much trouble with the rights owners. Um I think at that point I feel like we can't really escape um live streaming anymore. Like as much as we want to stage our musicals and maintain the sanctity of like nobody is able to pirate it or bootleg it. Even the grandest shows have bootleggers, you know, and that's just something that we have to kind of not really accept, but at the same time it's the status quo in a sense. But for any student theater orgs out there who are afraid of streaming their work, there are ways to really protect your work. And we did it through watermarking every stream that we have through Ticket to Me. Thank God. But yeah, so if ever it does get leaked, we'll be able to see which ticket buyer leaks it. So those there are
Mm.
protective measures. At the end of the day, when we put out our show, it's really on as long as we do our best to ensure that it is protected, that we put the measures there to really safeguard it. Um, I feel like live streaming it really outweighs like that fear of like piracy because you're able to reach so many people, and not just that, we're able to create a more inclusive space for theater because you know not everybody has the capability to go to a venue and watch a show for let's say 2 hours, you know, because of different reasons, like maybe they're wheelchair bound and the venues don't have the capacity to incorporate them, sadly. So live streaming really let more people in, and that's one of my thoughts, Ren, because um before coming into theater, honestly thought it was super. It was like an in group. Like you could only be here if you're like this kind of person, and seeing how many people is being reached by the live stream. Like for the past 2 years that I've been working with Blue Rep, under Blue Rep, it's been super exciting to see so many people who would have never went to a theater, to a venue on site, and get excited about the prospect of like, oh, I'm gonna watch a show now because there were ways that I could watch it now, because before I couldn't do it, but now that I've seen it through a live stream, I'm so excited for to go to a venue or like to even watch more live streams. Parang, I feel like that's one thing that theater should, any art form should aim for. Like we should really just aim for to get more people to get more excited about our art and not kind of like uh create like a space where people might feel unwelcome with.
You are speaking my language. That's, the whole point of why I created Filmed Live Musicals is to show people that there are so many shows out there that are accessible either online or DVD or cinema screenings, and it's not just limited to if you can get to New York or get to London or get to Manila even.
Mm.
That and it opens up access, like you said, to people who might not be able to attend the theater in person for reasons of disability or cost or childcare. There's so many reasons why people are excluded from the being at theater in person. And especially in this day and age, I love the idea of this cultural exchange that, me living in New Jersey, I can watch this production all the way from Manila on the other side of the planet, and vice versa, that there can be this exchange of art and music and a shared love of theater. And what can be better than that? So with that note, I have our next segment is called My Favorite Things. You don't need to think about your answers to these questions too much. Whatever comes to mind is good. There are no wrong answers.
These are a few of my favorite things.
So to start us off, and Bianca, you can go first. What is your favorite musical?
In the Heights.
I love it. One of my favorites too. True?
Um, I'm kind of split between two. Obviously, fan of the opera just because that's my first ever musical. But I've been so addicted to Jagged Little Pill, like it's insane.
It's so
Like
good.
the amount of times that I've listened to the soundtrack,
It's
like
so good.
oh my god, like, and not to mention I love Alanis Morissette. Like that woman,
Yes.
she I grew up with that woman. She's my mother.
I feel this very deeply and profoundly. I share this love with you. And I love Tom Kitt's orchestrations on Jagged Little Pill,
Yes.
how they elevate Alanis's music to a whole other level. Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. Do you have a favorite filmed live musical?
Filmed live musical.
Oh god. The MTV version of Legally Blonde, I remember watching it all the time on MTV and also Newsies because it was on the Philippine Netflix for a long time and
Yes.
I
I
was
agree.
watching it.
I agree with Newsies. I agree with Newsies and Legally Blonde
Yeah.
actually. Yes.
Both two amazing pro shots. Love them. So, a filmed live musical, it's not exactly a stage show and it's not exactly a film. So, what should we call it?
Hmm.
A pro shot. Sorry. uh,
Um, a movie-sicle.
a movie musical. A musical. What?
There's not really a good word for it yet. We're gonna leave it to like whoever's gonna be the next coin termer for it.
It's musical for now, actually. So
Musical.
musical. We'll leave it at that.
We touched on bootlegs a little bit before. Where do you stand on bootlegs?
No to dissemination. um. Well. Okay. On a Blue Rep end of thing, on Blue Rep's end, I think I'm very much against the distribution, because we film. We have like we obviously have bootlegs obviously for archival purposes, but when they are distributed and when they are like um but when they end up in the wrong hands, it really can do a lot for this org in a bad way. And we are a student organization. But for professional, for Broadway musicals, they're all over YouTube. And I would be lying if I say I didn't watch one. But
Yeah.
what about you, Chu?
For me, bootlegs, I think I share the sentiment with Blue Rep that it's kind of disheartening. I think it's because Blue Rep is so independent at times. Like there are times that we're really scraping by. Like we're not funded by mega corporations like production companies. Like this is a very in-house student-driven thing, and it kind of sucks to have people illegally distribute it. Not to mention that Blue Rep's audiences is primarily the Ateneo student population, so it kind of like tears the heart of it because it's like it's like the your own community in school that does it, which kind of sucks. But then I would be lying if I didn't also procure bootlegs for like Broadway shows. And I feel like in terms of that, not gonna say that bootlegs are like right, morally right, but I do understand why so many people do it. And I think it just really goes back to that inclusivity part of things that no, not everybody can really afford to fly out to New York, or even if you are in New York, to really like get into like a Hamilton show with the prices and the scalpers. So yeah, for me bootlegs are like bad, but at the same time it basically speaks that there is a problem that needs to be solved, and that problem is one of inclusivity and one of accessibility, because not everyone is privileged enough to really just go into a theater, pay for like $100, $200 ticket, and be expected to do their own normal daily stuff like pay rent, go to school, pay for education, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great answer. What stage musicals do you wish had been filmed?
That's embarrassing. You can go first,
I
Bianca.
can Jagged Little Pill. No, no.
True.
I think this might be basic of me, but I have two in mind. Hades Town for sure. The story is just so beautiful,
So true.
and you really
So
like.
true.
And also, someone told me, I think our moderator told me this, that it really depends where you watch, like in like where you're seated in the theater. It really depends, like what you're looking at. And I'd love to see a pro shot of Hades Town because um it's just the story is so beautiful, and even like the songs are beautiful and everything. That the fact that you see the orchestra on the stage is so pretty.
Yeah.
And
Also, the stage of Hades
at
Sound
the
is
stage,
insane.
the stage is
It's
incredible.
insane.
Yeah. And yeah, apart from 80 Sound being like an absolute dream production, um, it would just be so amazing if it was pro shot. Another one, and this is purely like because of the production aspect of it, Beetlejuice, because there's so many special effects that pop out, and you know, and it's really like I saw like a scene where he literally like rips his head open. You could see his brain, and it was just like, how do they do these things? It's just for deeper. It's more for deeper appreciation of the art that these people are
Yeah.
bringing to life. So, yeah. What about you two?
Not just gonna bring in the artistic answers. I'm just gonna bring a guilty pleasure one. I wish that there was a pro shot of the Heathers musical with Barrett Wilbert Reed and Ryan McCartan, because
True.
there is nothing. I am like they every time I have the urge to go watch Heathers with the two main leads, they just tease me, like the official YouTube channel just teases me by showing these beautifully shot footage, and I have no access to it. I'm like, damn, just bring it out the pro
I
shot.
have good news to share with you because Heathers is being filmed in London next month.
Choose to try.
it it is happening. They're filming the Off West End production, and
Ooh,
that will be. They haven't announced or released it yet, so that one is coming. I unfortunately Hades Town doesn't look like it's going to get a pro shot, which I
no.
so many people tell me that that's the show that they want to
Yeah.
see
It'd be
filmed.
so good.
I yeah, it is gorgeous. I've been very lucky to watch it, and I've actually ushered for it, so I've seen it a few times now, and it's
Oh my god.
it is truly a beautiful show, and I'm with you that I wish it could get a pro shot. But the good news for Heather,
Yeah.
what stage musicals would you like to see filmed in the future?
In the future. In the future, I'm not sure if there's a pro shot of it, but I would love to see the deaf version of Spring Awakening. I don't know why it when I watch the choreo of it, it's so I don't know how to explain it. It's like my eyes are glued to the screen because since they can't speak, they really have to rely on. They normally, since they're deaf, they can't really speak. Um, they really focus a lot on movement, like having these elegant choreography, especially for "Touch Me," the that song specifically. I don't know, it's so enticing to watch, and Suguro, and since I haven't watched it, and I would appreciate like a film version of it just to see.
Oh, I'm so with you on that one. I loved that production. It was so beautiful, and I was so mad they didn't film it. It may be at the New York Public Library Performing Arts Theater and Film and Tape Archive, which is only accessible in New York, and you can only watch it once, and you have to have a valid research reason for watching it. But it's Tuft is an amazing, amazing resource. But I wish that one had been filmed too. Bianca,
There are two musicals in my mind again. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to see the Wicked movie. Um, the one
Yeah.
directed by
two
John and
parts.
Chu. Yeah, I love John and Chu, and I think he did In the Heights too. So I really want to see how it's gonna turn out. And there's also a musical called Alice by Heart that I really want to see um, in a movie form because it was just so magical watching it. Like, um, I was watching it with a friend. We were just like so enticed by it, and I want to see that also. It's a beautiful story and beautiful music as well.
Another wonderful, very clever show with one of my favorites, Grace McLean. She plays the witch and not the witch, the Queen of Hearts,
Yeah,
and she's
amazing.
glorious.
Amazing.
Where can we find Blue Rep and both of you online?
For my personal, I guess, reaching, you can see me on Twitter, Christian Chu. So that's Christian Piuupiuw, because Christian Chu was already taken. Normally I just talk about any source of media. I'm such a media junkie, so I talk about film, music, especially music, musicals, theater, and obviously like video games too. So yeah, if you want to see some live action brain rot from me, you can follow me there.
Okay. All my social medias are private, so I'll be talking about Blue Rep.
No problem.
You can check Blue Rep out on Facebook, Ateneo Blue Repertory, and you can also find us on Instagram at Ateneo Blue Repertory, and we're also on TikTok, Blue Rep. So give us a follow and see all of our content. We post everything there.
Wonderful. And I will have links to all of those in the show notes. Chu and Bianca, thank you so much for your time today. It has been truly delightful to chat with you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much as well.
The Filmed Live Musicals podcast is created and edited by your host, Luisa Lyons, with thanks to our wonderful patrons, Josh Brandon, Geraldine Brewer, Belinda Broido, Elliot Charles, Jillian Dos Santos, Rachel Esteban, Mercedes Esteban Lyons, David Jones, James T. Lane, Heather Madrone, Alison Matthews, Al Monaco, David Negrin, Amy Penn, Gerald Piper, Jesse Rabinowitz and Brenda Goodman, David and Catherine Rabinowitz, Joe Tilliston, and Beck Twist for financially supporting the site. FilmedLiveMusicals.com is the most comprehensive list of film, stage, musicals. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you would like early access to this very podcast, early access to site content, the full weekly newsletter with info on upcoming streams, and exclusive access to the streaming calendar, become a Filmed Live Musicals patron for as little as $3 a month. And if you're outside the US, you can sign up in your local currency. Visit filmedlivemusicals.com to learn more. If you like what you hear, please leave a review in your podcast app. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks for listening.